Introduction. Welcome to How to Develop a Resilient Mindset, a journey that is not about avoiding the storms of life, but learning how to stand strong within them, how to bend without breaking, and how to find a deeper, quieter strength that carries you forward even when the winds howl and the skies darken. In a world that often demands more of us than we think we have to give, resilience is no longer just a luxury or a nice quality to have. It is a necessity, a survival tool, a foundation upon which we must build our dreams, our relationships, our health, and our inner peace, because life, no matter how carefully we plan it or how hard we work, will inevitably bring its share of setbacks, disappointments, losses, and unforeseen challenges. Developing a resilient mindset does not mean you will never struggle, never feel fear, or never experience moments of doubt or sadness. It means you will cultivate the ability to move through those experiences with your spirit intact, your hope undiminished, and your vision for the future still burning steadily in your heart. It means understanding that adversity is not a sign that you are failing, but a sacred invitation to grow stronger, wiser, and deeper than you were yesterday. And it means embracing the truth that while you cannot always control the circumstances of your life, you can always control your response, your focus, and your commitment to rise again and again, no matter how many times you fall. Throughout this audiobook, we are going to explore the real roots of resilience, not through shallow slogans or wishful thinking, but through practical strategies, deep mindset shifts, and soul-level habits that will help you build a mental and emotional foundation so solid that no temporary hardship can shake it apart. You will learn how to understand and master your own reactions, how to embrace discomfort as the birthplace of your strength, how to create an unwavering purpose that anchors you during your hardest moments, and how to surround yourself with the energy, people, and habits that nourish your spirit instead of draining it. You are not here to live a life untouched by difficulty. You are here to live a life where difficulty shapes you into someone powerful, someone patient, someone fierce in their hope and steady in their faith that better days are always ahead. No matter where you're starting from today, whether you feel broken, tired, uncertain, or just ready to grow, know that you have everything you need already inside of you, waiting to be nurtured, strengthened, and unleashed. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and commit to this process fully, because by the time we finish this journey together, you will not only understand what resilience truly is, you will embody it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Understand what resilience truly means. Before you can truly develop a resilient mindset, you must first strip away the false definitions that have been handed to you by a world that often misunderstands strength. Because resilience is not about pretending you are invincible. It is not about hiding your emotions behind a mask of forced positivity, and it is certainly not about denying the very real pain and struggle that life sometimes demands you walk through. Resilience, at its core, is the quiet, stubborn courage to continue forward even when the road ahead is uncertain, even when your heart is heavy, even when you are carrying burdens that few can see or understand, because true resilience is not about having an unbreakable exterior, but about cultivating an inner flexibility, a mindset that bends, adapts, grows, and endures without losing its essence or its fire. To be resilient does not mean you will never fall. It means you rise after every fall, not because you are never hurt, but because you have made the choice again and again to value growth more than comfort, to value the lessons learned in hardship more than the ease of smooth, unchallenged days. It is easy to admire resilience in others, in the athletes who train quietly through failure after failure until they win, in the entrepreneurs who endure endless rejection until they build something lasting, in the survivors who take their pain and transform it into purpose. But if you look closely, you will see that every story of resilience is not a story of someone who had fewer problems. It is a story of someone who developed a different relationship with problems, a different relationship with struggle, and ultimately, a different relationship with themselves. Resilience is built not in the moments when life is easy, but in the countless small decisions you make when life is hard. The decision to get back up when no one is cheering for you, the decision to believe in your future when your present feels like a battlefield, the decision to keep your heart open when everything inside you wants to shut down and turn away. It's about trusting that every storm you endure is shaping you into a deeper, stronger, wiser version of yourself, even when the process feels chaotic and painful and unfair, because resilience is not about feeling good all the time. It is about staying rooted in hope and purpose even when you feel bad, even when you're tired, even when the world feels heavier than your hands can hold. True resilience does not deny emotion. It honors it. It moves through it, and it emerges on the other side with a deeper compassion for self and for others, a deeper understanding that life's challenges are not punishments, but invitations to discover the vastness of your own strength. You will not always be able to control the obstacles that appear in your path, but you can control how you view them, how you move through them, and how you allow them to shape you. And in that choice, the choice to view adversity not as the end of your story, but as the forging ground of your greatness, lies the heart of resilience. So before you build new habits, before you master new techniques, first take a moment to redefine resilience for yourself. Not as an impossible standard of perfection, but as a living, breathing practice of hope, strength, and perseverance that you choose again and again every day you wake up and decide that you're not done fighting for your future. The world does not need more people pretending to be unbreakable. It needs more people willing to be strong enough to bend, brave enough to heal, and wise enough to know that resilience is not about never falling. It is about rising every time you do. Chapter 2. Build self-awareness first. If you want to build true resilience, the kind that endures beyond a single challenge and carries you through the many seasons of life, you must begin not by fighting the world around you, but by turning inward, by developing a deep and honest self-awareness that allows you to understand your own mind, your own emotions, and your own instinctive reactions to the storms you will inevitably face. It is impossible to be resilient if you are a stranger to yourself, because when you do not know what triggers your fear, what feeds your anger, or what fuels your perseverance, you're tossed around by circumstances like a ship without a compass, reacting blindly to every wave rather than navigating the seas with intention and strength. Self-awareness is not about judging yourself harshly or labeling yourself with negativity. It is about observing your internal world with compassion and curiosity, about recognizing your emotional patterns without shame, about learning to name the forces that drive you before they can control you from the shadows. When you feel overwhelmed, when fear rises in your chest or anger sparks in your heart, resilience begins not by pushing those feelings away, but by pausing long enough to ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? What deeper need is going unmet? What wound is this moment touching inside me? Because in that pause, in that quiet reflection, you take back the power to choose your response instead of being enslaved by your reaction. Building self-awareness means taking the time to notice your default thoughts, the stories you tell yourself when things go wrong, the inner narratives that either uplift you or drag you down, and it means questioning them, challenging them, rewriting them when necessary, so that your internal voice becomes a source of strength rather than sabotage. It means tracking your emotional cycles, noticing how you tend to react under stress, how you retreat or lash out or shut down. And instead of blaming yourself for those patterns, becoming curious about them, asking what they're trying to protect, what they have taught you, and how you can respond differently now that you see them clearly. It means understanding your energy, knowing which situations, people, and environments drain you and which ones nourish you, and giving yourself permission to protect your energy fiercely, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of survival, as a declaration that your peace and strength matter. Self-awareness also means learning to celebrate your strengths without arrogance and to acknowledge your weaknesses without shame, to see yourself not as broken or flawed, but as a dynamic, evolving human being who is capable of extraordinary growth once you are willing to meet yourself honestly. When you build this kind of relationship with yourself, grounded in honesty, compassion, and curiosity, Resilience becomes something natural, something organic, because you're no longer fighting invisible battles inside yourself while trying to endure the battles outside. You move through the world anchored, aware of your triggers, your needs, your values, and your dreams, and that awareness gives you the ability to adapt, to adjust, to rise when others fall. Not because life is easier for you, but because you know how to navigate the inner terrain that so often causes others to lose their way. Resilience, at its deepest level, is not just about external endurance. It is about internal mastery, and that mastery begins with a simple but profound decision to know yourself, to listen to yourself, and to trust yourself even when everything around you feels uncertain. So before you rush into building new habits or setting new goals, pause and turn inward, because the strength you're seeking out there has been waiting inside you all along, hidden behind the noise, waiting for the moment you would slow down, listen, and meet yourself with open eyes and an open heart. Chapter 3. Train your mind to embrace discomfort. If there is one truth that every resilient soul eventually comes to accept, it is that discomfort is not the enemy. It is the training ground, the forge where strength is built and refined. And if you run from it, if you avoid it, if you treat it as something to fear and escape rather than something to lean into and learn from, you will spend your life trapped within the small, shrinking borders of your comfort zone, never touching the full expanse of your potential. The mind, by default, craves safety, predictability, and ease, but the irony is that everything you desire, the growth you seek, the confidence you want to embody, the freedom you dream of, lies on the other side of discomfort, waiting patiently for you to be brave enough to cross the invisible line that most people spend their lives tiptoeing around. Training your mind to embrace discomfort does not mean you must seek out suffering for its own sake, nor does it mean you must become numb to the very real emotions that arise when you face fear, uncertainty, or challenge. It means you recognize discomfort for what it truly is, a signal that you are entering new territory, a signpost that growth is happening, a necessary companion on the road to every dream worth pursuing. It means you start to reframe your relationship with the uneasy, stretching moments of life, understanding that if you only do what feels good, what feels familiar, what feels safe, you will never evolve beyond the version of yourself you already are. And while there may be comfort in the familiar, there is no transformation there, no expansion, no magic. Every time you feel the tug of discomfort, the quickening of your heart before a difficult conversation, the fear before starting something new, the frustration of failing at something you care about, you are being given an opportunity, not a punishment, an invitation to step into a higher version of yourself, if only you are willing to stay, to breathe, to move forward without retreating. Resilient people do not have less fear than others. They have trained themselves over and over again to sit with that fear, to feel it fully without letting it dictate their actions, to understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act anyway, to keep walking even with shaking hands and a pounding heart. You can begin small, because building a tolerance for discomfort is like strengthening a muscle. It grows with repetition, with exposure, with patience. And each time you choose to stay a little longer in an uncomfortable moment rather than escaping it, you build a layer of inner strength that will be there for you when life demands even more. Maybe it's starting with small acts. Pushing yourself to speak up when you want to stay silent, choosing the harder but more honest path when deceit would be easier, sitting with an uncomfortable feeling instead of distracting yourself with noise or numbness. Because every small act of leaning into discomfort teaches your mind that you are capable, that you can survive the storm of emotion that discomfort stirs up, and that you are far stronger than the part of you that craves safety. Over time, what once felt unbearable will begin to feel manageable, and what once seemed terrifying will become simply another part of your journey. Because the more you normalize discomfort, the less power it has over you, and the more freedom you gain to move boldly toward the life you're meant to live. Understand that every hero you admire, every person who has accomplished anything of lasting value, has been shaped not by easy days, but by their willingness to endure, to persist, and to embrace the moments when they felt stretched beyond what they thought they could bear. And it is through their example that you can see the truth. Resilience is born in the fire, not in the comfort. So train your mind, gently but persistently, to lean into discomfort, to welcome it as a sign that you are alive, that you are growing, that you are refusing to stay small, because in doing so, you will not only survive the challenges ahead, you will rise through them stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you ever believed possible. Chapter 4. Create a strong why to anchor you. In the journey toward developing a resilient mindset, there will inevitably be moments when your strength wavers, when the obstacles in your path seem insurmountable, when doubt creeps into your mind like a slow, relentless fog. And it is in these moments that having a strong, deeply rooted why becomes not just helpful, but absolutely essential. Because without a powerful reason to endure, to persist, to keep moving forward when everything inside you is begging you to stop, you will find it all too easy to surrender to the weight of temporary hardships. Your why is the anchor that holds you steady when the storms of life rage around you, the invisible thread that pulls you through the darkest nights and the longest winters. And without it, you'll be left drifting, vulnerable to every wave of fear, every gust of discouragement, every temptation to retreat back into the safety of comfort and smallness. A strong why is not a superficial goal. It is not a fleeting desire or a shallow ambition. It is a soul-level commitment to something larger than your momentary feelings, something that resonates so deeply with who you are and who you want to become that giving up is no longer simply a failure of willpower. It is a betrayal of your own spirit. It is easy to stay committed when life is easy, when the path is smooth and the rewards are immediate. But true resilience is tested in the spaces between victories, in the long, barren stretches where progress feels invisible and the world seems indifferent to your effort. And it is in these spaces that your why either sustains you or your lack of one leaves you vulnerable to defeat. Finding your why requires reflection, honesty, and a willingness to dig deeper than the surface-level answers you're used to giving, because it is not enough to say, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy. You must ask yourself why success matters to you, why happiness is important, what values, dreams, and people you're willing to fight for when the journey becomes harder than you ever imagined. Maybe your why is to become the person your younger self needed, to break the cycle of pain or poverty or fear that was handed to you, to leave a legacy of hope for those who come after you, or simply to prove to yourself that you are capable of living a life that feels fully alive, fully expressed, fully yours. Whatever it is, it must be personal, it must be real, and it must be powerful enough to withstand the inevitable moments of exhaustion and doubt. When you know your why, when you hold it clearly in your mind and close to your heart, every setback becomes easier to bear. Every obstacle becomes another test you are willing to endure because you're not fighting for something shallow or meaningless. You are fighting for something that defines you, that fuels you, that gives purpose and weight to every struggle and every sacrifice. It is your why that will remind you, when you're tired, when you are lost, when you are doubting your worth and your strength, that the pain you are enduring is not pointless, that every hard moment is serving a greater mission, a greater vision that your soul has committed to fulfilling. So take the time to find your why. Write it down, speak it out loud, build rituals around it, return to it daily, because the world will not hand you resilience. It will hand you opportunities to build it, and when those opportunities come wrapped in struggle, it will be your why that determines whether you keep climbing or whether you let the mountain defeat you. Your strength is not measured by how easy your path is, but by how deeply you stay connected to your reason for walking it. And when your reason is strong enough, when your vision is clear enough, there is no storm powerful enough, no setback heavy enough, no delay long enough to make you give up on the life you're destined to build. Chapter 5. Practice emotional flexibility. When it comes to developing a resilient mindset, one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate is emotional flexibility, the ability to feel deeply without becoming trapped, to experience pain without letting it define you, to move through waves of emotion with grace and self-compassion rather than fighting them, fearing them, or allowing them to drag you under. Emotional flexibility is not about suppressing what you feel or pretending to be unaffected by the storms of life. It is about allowing yourself to fully experience the richness of your emotions without becoming a prisoner to them, about learning to bend and sway with the winds of hardship without snapping or losing the core of who you are. Rigid minds break when reality does not conform to their expectations, but flexible minds, minds that can adapt, minds that can absorb difficulty and find new ways forward, are the ones that endure, that survive, that ultimately thrive even in environments that seem designed to crush them. Life will not always go according to your plans, and the people around you will not always act the way you hope, and your own heart will sometimes carry sorrows you did not anticipate. And it is emotional flexibility, not brittle resistance, that will determine whether you crumble under the weight of it all or whether you adjust, recalibrate, and continue walking forward with your hope intact. Practicing emotional flexibility begins with permission, giving yourself the freedom to feel whatever you are feeling without judgment, without labeling emotions as good or bad, without adding layers of shame or guilt to the very natural human experience of sadness, anger, fear, disappointment, or grief, because emotions are not weaknesses to be eradicated. They are signals, they are messages from the deepest parts of you asking to be acknowledged, understood, and moved through. When you allow yourself to feel without becoming stuck, when you allow emotions to move through you like weather, intense but temporary, you prevent them from calcifying into bitterness, resentment, or despair, and you give yourself the freedom to heal more quickly, to rise more steadily, to move forward more lightly. Emotional flexibility also means learning the art of reframing, the ability to shift your perspective without denying your pain, to see not only what is broken, but also what is still whole, to find meaning even in moments of loss, to ask not only why did this happen to me, but also how can I grow from this? What part of me is being called to rise stronger because of this? It means understanding that emotions are information but not commands, that feeling fear does not mean you must retreat, that feeling sadness does not mean you have lost the capacity for joy, that feeling anger does not mean you have failed at being calm. It simply means you are alive, and to be alive is to be moved by the shifting tides of experience. The more you practice emotional flexibility, not once, but as a daily, intentional act, the more resilient you become, not because you learn to avoid hardship, but because you learn to adapt to it without losing your center, without losing your vision, without losing the quiet flame of hope that keeps you moving even on the hardest days. You begin to trust yourself, not because you expect life to be easy, but because you know that whatever life hands you, you have the ability to move through it, to process it, to grow from it, and to emerge not untouched by hardship, but untouched in spirit, intact, wise, and still full of love. So when the winds of life howl against you, when disappointment breaks across your chest like a cold wave, when fear or sadness rises unbidden in your heart, practice bending instead of breaking. Practice breathing instead of panicking. Practice trusting the process instead of retreating into despair. Because emotional flexibility is the secret armor that allows you to face the world not with brittle defiance, but with a quiet, enduring, unstoppable strength. Chapter 6. Build habits that strengthen you daily. Resilience is not built in a single moment of courage or in a fleeting burst of inspiration. It is forged slowly, quietly, and persistently through the small habits you choose to honor every single day, the often invisible rituals that nourish your mind, your body, and your spirit long before the storms arrive, long before life tests the strength of what you have patiently built inside yourself. It is easy to believe that resilience is something you are either born with or not, something that some lucky souls inherit and others are destined to live without. But the truth is far simpler and far more empowering. Resilience is the inevitable result of the disciplines you practice daily, the way you train your mind to see possibilities instead of obstacles, The way you train your heart to endure discomfort instead of retreating into despair. The way you show up for yourself when no one else is watching. Building habits that strengthen you daily is not about grand gestures or dramatic transformations. It is about the slow, almost imperceptible accumulation of small acts that over time weave a foundation so strong beneath you that when the earthquakes of life inevitably come, you do not collapse, you bend, you adjust, you endure, and you continue. Maybe it starts with something as simple as beginning your morning in stillness. Taking 5 minutes before the noise of the world rushes in to anchor yourself in gratitude, to set your intentions, to remind yourself that no matter what the day brings, you have the power to choose your response. Maybe it means making a non-negotiable commitment to move your body every day, not to chase perfection or appearance, but to remind yourself that you are alive, that you are capable, that strength is something you cultivate through repetition and care, not something that simply appears when needed. Maybe it is the habit of speaking to yourself with kindness, of refusing to let your inner critic have the final word, of learning to recognize the voice of fear for what it is, a relic of survival, not a predictor of destiny, and choosing, again and again, to respond to yourself with encouragement, with forgiveness, with a deep, patient belief in your own unfolding. It could be the habit of facing your fears in small, deliberate ways each day, choosing discomfort over avoidance, courage over complacency, growth over safety, because every time you step toward what scares you, no matter how small the step, you are laying another brick in the fortress of your resilience. Or perhaps it is the habit of nurturing your dreams, even when the world seems indifferent, of carving out time to work on what matters to you, to feed your soul with purpose and creativity, because dreams abandoned in the name of survival eventually erode the spirit, and resilience thrives not only on endurance, but on hope, on meaning, on the quiet rebellion of refusing to give up on what makes life beautiful. The point is not which habits you choose. The point is that you choose them consciously, that you build them deliberately, that you understand that your future resilience is being shaped right now, in the quiet moments when you choose to show up for yourself, even when no one else sees it, even when the rewards are not immediate, even when the effort feels small. Because strength does not arrive all at once. It grows slowly in the background, invisibly, until one day when life tests you and you find, to your amazement, that you're not as fragile as you once feared, that you're not as easily broken as you once believed, that somewhere along the way, you became someone who could carry the weight, who could weather the storm, who could rise again and again with your spirit still intact. So do not wait for the hard times to begin building your strength. Start today, start now, in the small choices, in the invisible disciplines, in the daily rituals of self-respect and perseverance that, over time, will transform you into a force of quiet, unshakable resilience. Chapter 7. Surround yourself with energy builders, not energy drainers. In your journey to develop a resilient mindset, it is not only your habits, your thoughts, or your inner dialogue that shape your strength, but also the people and environments you allow to surround you. Because no matter how determined, disciplined, or self-aware you become, if you constantly expose yourself to negative, draining, and diminishing energies, your spirit will inevitably begin to erode under their weight. And your resilience, no matter how carefully built, will be chipped away, piece by piece. The truth is we're deeply influenced by the company we keep, the conversations we engage in, the attitudes we absorb, the emotional climates we marinate in. And just as spending time around hopeful, empowering, and growth-minded individuals naturally lifts your energy and reinforces your strength, surrounding yourself with chronic complainers, critics, cynics, and energy drainers slowly saps your will, clouds your vision, and dulls the spark that you're working so hard to protect. Energy builders are not perfect people, nor are they endlessly cheerful or naive. They're the people who, even in their own struggles, choose hope over despair, growth over stagnation, solutions over endless complaint, and who, by their very presence, remind you of your own strength, your own potential, your own ability to rise again and again, no matter how many times life tries to knock you down. Energy drainers, on the other hand, often operate unconsciously, wrapped in their own cycles of fear, bitterness, and helplessness. And if you're not careful, you will find yourself absorbing their despair, carrying their burdens as your own, and shrinking your dreams to fit their limitations without even realizing it. Protecting your energy is not about judging others or seeing yourself as better than them. It is about understanding that your emotional resilience is a living, breathing thing that needs to be nourished, protected, and supported if it is to grow strong enough to carry you through the inevitable storms of life. You have the right, and more than that, you have the responsibility to be intentional about the people you allow close to your heart, about the conversations you participate in, about the environments you choose to invest your precious time and energy in, because every interaction is either reinforcing your resilience or eroding it, either watering your hope or poisoning it with doubt. Seek out those who challenge you to grow, who remind you of what is possible, who believe in your vision even when you're tired, who hold you accountable not through criticism, but through encouragement, and who, simply by being who they are, ignite in you a greater belief in who you can become. And just as importantly, strive to be an energy builder yourself. Not someone who denies pain or pretends life is always easy, but someone who, even in the face of hardship, chooses to hold on a light, to speak life into others, to create spaces where resilience is not only encouraged but contagious. Understand that protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary for your survival, for your growth, for the fulfillment of the purpose you are working so hard to realize, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot build an unshakable mind while constantly allowing it to be battered by the storms of other people's unresolved battles. So be intentional, be discerning, be courageous enough to set boundaries where needed, to walk away from what drains you without apology, and to invest deeply and consistently in the relationships, environments, and habits that build you up, because your resilience is a precious resource, and everything you allow into your life either strengthens it or weakens it. Surround yourself with energy builders, and watch how much farther you can go, how much stronger you can become, and how much more unbreakable your spirit will feel when the storms inevitably come. Conclusion. As we reach the end of this journey together, it is important to pause and recognize that the development of a resilient mindset is not a destination you reach once and for all, but rather a living, breathing process that unfolds day by day, choice by choice, habit by habit, moment by moment, as you continually recommit to rising higher than your fear, deeper than your doubt, and stronger than any obstacle that dares to stand in your way. Resilience is not reserved for the few who were born lucky or naturally tough. It is built by those who are willing to meet themselves honestly, who are willing to face the discomfort of growth, who are willing to embrace the reality that pain is not the end of the story, but often the birthplace of the very strength they have been seeking all along. You now understand that true resilience begins with self-awareness, with the courage to examine your own mind and emotions without judgment, to meet your patterns with curiosity rather than condemnation, and to choose, again and again, to respond to life not from your wounds, but from your wisdom. You now know that embracing discomfort is not a punishment, but a pathway, that every difficult step taken beyond your comfort zone is a step toward freedom, a step toward strength, a step toward the person you were always meant to become, even if the journey sometimes feels slower and heavier than your heart would like. You have seen how a deeply rooted why can anchor you when motivation fades, how emotional flexibility allows you to move with the storms rather than be broken by them, how daily habits quietly and invisibly forge a fortress of resilience around your spirit, and how the energy of the people you surround yourself with either lifts you into your highest potential or slowly pulls you back into mediocrity. And now you stand at the edge of a choice, not a one-time decision, but a daily, moment-to-moment commitment to live differently, to think differently, to rise differently, to hold your hope with both hands even when the winds try to tear it away, to see setbacks not as signs to quit, but as invitations to dig deeper, to trust yourself more fiercely, and to walk forward with an unshakable belief that you were made for more than just surviving. You were made for thriving. There will be days ahead when you will feel tired, when you will question everything you have learned, when the temptation to retreat will feel overwhelming. But it is in those very moments that your true resilience will be revealed, not in your ability to avoid hardship, but in your ability to stand back up, to stay connected to your vision, to remember that you have already survived every hard day before this one, and that you are stronger, wiser, and more capable than you often allow yourself to believe. You do not need to be perfect to be resilient. You do not need to have all the answers to keep moving forward. You simply need to keep choosing hope over despair, growth over comfort, action over fear, and purpose over resignation. And if you can do that, even imperfectly, even clumsily, you will find yourself becoming unbreakable in the only way that truly matters. Not because life is easy, but because you have decided that no matter what happens, you will not be defeated. So as you step back into your life, carry these truths with you like armor, not to shield yourself from the challenges ahead, but to meet them with open eyes, an open heart, and a spirit that knows beyond any doubt that resilience is not something you find. It is something you build, something you choose, something you embody, one brave breath, one steady step, one resilient moment at a time. You are stronger than you know. You are braver than you believe. And your story is far from over. This is just the beginning. Keep rising.